Hello dear learners, welcome back to my YouTube channel Learn with Harini. Are you a person working in an organization or an establishment? Is it a manufacturing or service or any other sector? Are you employed on a contract basis? Or are you working as an HR? Are you well aware of the labor laws to comply with your organization? If you are an employee, do you know your compensation structure? The amount of contribution you pay in the case of PF and about partial and full withdrawal. This video series is going to be useful for you all. If you are preparing for college exams or competitive exams, there are going to be a lot of study tips and techniques to remember most of the laws and the content. Begin with the video. There were initially 29 labor law codes, and as of now, it has been completely consolidated into just 4 labor law codes. This is the new labor law, and this came into picture on 19th September 2020, and the bill was passed in the Rajya Sabha on 23rd September 2020. So, the 29 labor law codes divided into 4, what are they? Let's see one by one. The first one is the Code on Wages 2019. In this, there are completely 4 acts. What are they? The first one is Payment of Wages Act 1936, Minimum Wages Act 1948, third one is Payment of Bonus Act 1965, and the last 4th one is the Equal Remuneration Act 1976. Of course, for you to remember, it's a bit confusing. All you have to remember is the top 4 law. The first one is the Code on Wages. So we are going to remember with a short story. The first one under the Code on Wages would be that if you are a working person, if you are working in any organization or any factory, all you need basically is for your work are the wages. So to begin with, there is wages. Okay. So the wages should be at least of the bare minimum standard for whatever work you're doing. So the next one would be the minimum wages. And the third act in order for you to remember is there is wages you're working for. There is minimum wages also quoted. That's all right. And the next important factor is, are you going to receive any bonus in the organization where you are working with? Is there what are the bonus available for the following accounting year? Are they following minimum bonus or maximum bonus? So there is wages, then there is minimum wages, and then there is bonus. And the fourth one is, after all these are satisfied, we need equal pay for equal work without any discrimination. So the last one is the Equal Remuneration Act. Here, the year you have to remember, maybe with some year of significance or somebody's birthday or some event which has happened, you can very well remember along with that. So the Payment of Wages Act is 1936, the Minimum Wages Act is 1948, the Payment of Bonus Act is 1965, and the Equal Remuneration Act is 1976. All these 4 come under the first new labor code, which is Code on Wages 2019. The second one, the most important one, is the Industrial Relations Code 2020. The first one which we saw was Code on Wages 2019. This is Industrial Relations Code 2020. Under this, we have following 3 acts. The first act is the Trade Union Act, and the second act is the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act, and the third act is the Industrial Disputes Act of 1947. Again, a short story for you to remember. If you're a worker in a factory or any establishment or any organization, in order to gain power over the management and to share the duties and the responsibilities, you establish a trade union and you become a member of the trade union to hold a certain power. So the first one would be Trade Union Act of 1926. After establishing the trade union, your norms to even establish a proper trade union, your rights, your duties and responsibilities is all stated in the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946. So the next comes Standing Orders Act 1946. The third one is that the first two steps are done, and then you get into any dispute or any affairs of the company, you can refer the Industrial Disputes Acts of 1947 after establishing your trade union. So the third point is Industrial Disputes Act 1947. Only these three acts come under Industrial Relations Code on 2020. The third one is the Code on Social Security 2020. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you talk about Social Security? You can list down all those at first. That is Gratuity Act of 1972, which gives you the retirement benefits, Maternity Act 1961, and the next one would be PF, Employee PF Act 1952. And if you're working as a building or a construction worker, it's the Building Workers Cess Act 1996. If you're working in the field industry, it is again Cine Workers Welfare Fund Act 1981. And of course, you cannot forget our old acts, Employee Compensation Act, which is again a social security for all your partial or permanent disablement. Continuing with the seventh one, ESA Act, Employee State Insurance Act 1948. And the next one would be Unorganized Workers Social Security 2008. This year is very important. And the last one would be Employment Exchanges Compulsory Notification of Vacancies Act 1959. Employment Exchanges 1959. So these 9 acts come under the Code on Social Security 2020. The last one and the bigger one is the Occupational Health Safety Working Conditions 2020. What is the first act that comes to your mind when we talk about health welfare facilities? Yes, it's factories. Factories Act 1948 comes under this. And what are the other establishments which we have studied in section 2 of the other definitions in all the acts? It's the Plantation Labor Act, Plantation Act 1951. And the next most common act is the Mines Act 1952. And the next one is BD and cigar workers. All these come under the definition establishment. So you can list this one by one. 1966. If you are a contract laborer, Contract Labor Protection and Regulation Act of 1970. If you are an interstate migrant worker, it is the Interstate Migrant Workmen Regulation of Employment and Conditions of Service Act 1979. The list is big. Let's continue with the other acts that comes under this. In relation to newspaper field, you can have the Working Journalist and Other Newspaper Employees Condition of Service Act 1955. And then again the Working Journalist Fixation Rate of Wages Act 1958. And then these two are under this. And then for sales Promotion Employees Condition Service Act 1976. And then again for cine workers and cinema theatre workers Act 1981. We also have the same Building Act under this CES Act, and then the Dock Workers Safety, Health and Welfare Act 1986. These are the acts which come under Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions 2020. So these are the 4 new labor law codes which was introduced and consolidated. We have seen and studied this in detail. You can remember the story hint and remember each of the act along with the years. All the best. Keep learning, keep growing. Thanks for watching.